It is crazy to say, but we here at Law and Crime have now become the victims of a crime ourselves. Our offices in New York were burglarized, and as you'll see, it was all caught on tape. We're going to break down this incredible footage, this guy's arrest, and how all of this unfolded with Law and Crime's founder, Dan Abrams, because he was instrumental in catching this guy. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Now here on Sidebar, we report on all different kinds of crimes, right? That's what we do. We talk about crimes on Law and Crime's Sidebar. But today, we here are actually the victims of a crime. You see, a burglar came into our office in New York City on a Sunday night, this was over a week ago, and spent almost 2 hours going through our offices. And as insane as that is, you know what's also nuts? The fact that we got it all on tape. We have surveillance cameras across almost every inch of this office. We were watching this guy, his whole journey from room to room, seeing what he was doing, what his mindset was, what his plan was. You know what's interesting? Maybe this guy didn't realize at first that our entire office has cameras everywhere, because you know what happens? We got a really good look at him, a pretty fresh look at his face. Now, how did all this happen? Well, he apparently comes into our office from a stairwell. And as you see, he kind of looks around, seeing if anybody's there. Makes you wonder, is this the first time he's been here or whatnot? But he's wearing a Dutch X vest. That's a security company. So we're not sure if that contributed to how he got into the building. But here's what we do know. He spends all of this time, taking his time, by the way, going from place to place, area to area, searching drawers, offices, files. And here's the funniest part. Eventually, he realizes that his face isn't covered. Oh no, big mistake. So what does he do? He creates a makeshift mask with paper towels and tape. I mean, we aren't really dealing with Danny Ocean over here. Then he finds somehow a wagon, pulls it around, goes from desk to desk, drawer to drawer, folder to folder, seeing whatever he can find. And not just taking everything and stuffing it into the wagon. He's kind of specific on what he takes and what he doesn't take. And I got to highlight one of the more curious aspects of this is when he inspects our book collection. Maybe he's looking for a nice, bedtime story. Maybe he's an avid fan of true crime novels. I don't know. But he packs the wagon filled with all sorts of equipment and goodies, microphones, mixers, laptops, iPads, merchandise, struggles to get to the elevator while pulling the wagon, and then eventually takes off. Now, he ends up stealing what we believe is around $30,000 worth of equipment. So what happens? Well, I show up the next day ready to do my sidebars and my prime crime and live my Law and Crime day, and I find out that we're missing stuff in the office. And in fact, one of our technical directors comes to me and says, "Are you missing anything from your office?" I didn't know what was going on. Come to find out, the office was burglarized because we looked at the surveillance footage like you're seeing here, and we're shocked at what we see. So we call the police, they come to our office, and Dan Abrams, our founder, gets to the office too, and he starts talking with police. And you know what happens? Dan ends up helping to solve this crime. And this guy, identified as David Jaramillo of Cranberry, New Jersey, is ultimately arrested. And he is arrested at, of all places, a pawn shop in New Jersey later that day. We even see he has our Law and Crime merchandise with him, okay? Now, the pawn shop owner had the good sense to know not to buy this stuff from Jaramillo, and it's our understanding that Jaramillo was charged with third-degree burglary and grand larceny, and we believe he is awaiting extradition back to New York after being arrested in New Jersey. Now, I had the chance to sit down with Dan himself to get to the bottom of how all of this unfolded. Take a look. All right, we're joined by Dan Abrams right now. Dan,
sir,
good to see you.
Good to see you.
So, this is not a surprise. We cover crimes all the time on a lot of different shows. But the fact that you are now a victim of a crime, your office was burglarized. What's that feeling like?
Well, look, I think it's the way anyone who's been burglarized feels. You feel violated, right? Particularly when you can watch the video of the person going through your stuff, right? So it's not just my stuff is missing and I'm angry and upset. Now you're actually watching the person rifle through all your personal items in every drawer, looking at them, et cetera, which is what this guy was doing. He's taking his time. It's not like he was just like taking it and throwing it in. He's walking around, browsing the bookcases.
What do you think his game plan was?
I think he thought he had unlimited time, which he did. He was there late on a weekend night. Once he got in, I think he realized that he was pretty safe and he was going to just get as much of the good stuff as he could.
I thought the part with him, first of all, could you not have a better piece of evidence? His face on camera?
Well, the whole thing, the fact that he robbed Law and Crime is one thing, right?
Yeah.
It's a crime. But the fact that he has now created so much content for us, like the video of him at our offices, the video of him at the pawn shop, the video of him being arrested, the mugshot. This is like a made for Law and Crime event that this guy created. And the reason we can be so lighthearted about it is that we got so lucky that they caught him with all of our stuff. So we have it all back. That is really unusual. For crime victims, it is incredibly unusual to get all of your stuff back intact, right? Why was it intact? Because he wanted to sell it.
Were you surprised, and I was going to get to this point, but were you surprised that he didn't wait to sell it? He tried to immediately get rid of it. Now, he went to another state, but immediately tried to discard it.
Yeah, look, the longer he waits, the more we get a chance to report it, and they can inform people, et cetera. But, what does he want to be holding on to all that stuff for,
Yeah, he didn't want to just wear the killer hit cases hat
Yeah,
around.
exactly. The I'm a true crime addict hat. Yeah.
If you can, what did he take from your office?
So from my office, he took checks that I had in my drawer. I think he took a bottle of liquor that I had in there. And that was it. So as compared to the other stuff he took, my personal stuff was fairly limited. It was the broader company. Well, he also took the box that I use for my Sirius XM show. So it's a communication device, I don't even know what you'd call it, that Sirius XM uses to allow me to host the show remotely, because you fill in.
Do you know what's funny about that?
Yeah.
I was filling in for you that day, and we have a little side, like a little area where you can film. He took the microphone.
Right.
So I'm supposed to fill in for you. I'm like, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of, but I think he really just tried to take anything that seemed to be of value.
Yeah. And I got to ask you about the books. Rousing looking at the book covers. What did you make of that?
That was probably the most stunning part. The idiocy with regard to not having a mask and then trying to put on a mask, that's just dumb, right? But dumb guy apparently likes to read books. And that's kind of interesting, right? So he's sitting there reading the book jackets to see what's this book about, to determine apparently whether he should take it. I was a little insulted that he didn't take any of the books that I wrote, at least not that I know of.
He's probably not a history buff.
Yes,
that's his fault.
That's my guess.
That's his
my
problem.
guess. It seems he was really more about the true crime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, I got to ask you about the wagon. That was.
I don't know where that came from.
Neither do I. He didn't bring it in with him.
Yeah, I assume it's ours. And it's interesting because there are a number of items that we didn't and don't even know are missing. So in addition to what was 90% of the stuff, all the most expensive stuff, which we got back, he had a bag or two of other items which they're just now accessing. And they've informed us that there is a lot more of our stuff in there. So I think we're going to figure out items that were missing that we didn't even realize were gone.
So walk us through that Monday. So this happens on a Sunday. This Monday happens. You come to the office. Police are there. I was there. It was quite the scene.
Yeah.
Walk us through what those conversations were like and what happened next.
So police are in the office when I arrive. I know that there's been a robbery. At first we thought it was just a laptop that was gone. And then we realized like the whole office has been hit.
Yeah.
At that point, we're going and looking at the surveillance footage. But while the police are here, Tom, who leads our tech team here, had a tracker on his computer. Sort of says in passing, oh, you know, looks like my computer's in South Amboy, New Jersey. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I've got a tracker on it. I'm like, no way. And then, you know, I'm talking to the police. I mention it in passing to the police. I'm thinking, you know, it's probably been sold or whatever it is. It may be, but then he says it's moving. So I'm like, wait, the guy's moving with it? That means he's still got it. So then I say to the NYPD, I said, guys, like, we actually know where his computer is right now. Can we go get it? I said, well, you know, it's going to take us a little time. Need to get in the detective here. The lead detective hasn't arrived yet. And I said, well, I have a guy who's the analyst on the live police show that I host called On Patrol Live, who is a Jersey cop who actually works in the county where this guy is right now. And they said, please call him. I said, that's cool. They're like, absolutely. So I reach out to Captain Tom Rizzo, and the story goes from there.
How quickly from that call to Tom do they end up finding him at the pawn shop? What, if you know how long that was?
I'd say from the time that I reached out to Tom until the time the guy was arrested was probably 40 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes.
So if we put that in a time frame, the guy burglarizes the office Sunday night, and he's picked up late morning, early afternoon the next day. That's an incredible time frame.
Incredible.
And
Tom couldn't believe it either, right? It's not just, you know, us non-police officers who are like, whoa.
Yeah.
He was like, I can't believe we caught him with the stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, Tom was like, he's like, we got him. We got him. And it wasn't, he was just like, I can't believe it. We got him and he's got all your stuff.
I know. And I want to get to the pawn shop in a second, but I have to ask you, the idea of the headline, Dan Abrams of the Law&Crime Network, who has this career built on law and law enforcement, that you catch the guy that burglarized you.
Well, and look, you know, it would have been worse if it was Dan Abrams, the law and crime guy, gets burglarized and it's an unsolved crime, which is the vast majority of these, right? Yeah. It was, you know, a little bit of the wrong place that he hit and a little bit of luck that combined together.
Talk to us about the pawn shop. What you take away from that pawn shop video and what he was trying to do at the pawn shop.
Well, so I've spoken to the pawn shop owner now on my News Nation show, and he said the guy was trying to sell him the computers and other items. The guy said to him, you don't have passwords for the computer? He said, no, you know, you can just sell it for parts. And the guy said, sell it for parts? Get out of here. I mean, I was thinking, oh, this must happen all the time. Pawn shop owner said, yeah, it doesn't happen that often that they're that dumb and that obvious. They're that obvious about the fact that it's stolen. Yeah. Right? I mean, he claimed he found it in a dumpster. That's where he found all this stuff.
What a great dumpster.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Someone just dumped out all this like high-tech equipment.
Yeah. And they pick him up. Right? They pick him up and they apprehend him outside the pawn shop. So he's, so right, the timing of that's interesting as well. Right? They get him right outside the pawn shop.
Correct. So he gets kicked out of the pawn shop and he's around the back apparently calling other pawn shops to try to find out if they'll take it.
Wow.
So he doesn't want to bother this time going to another pawn shop and wasting his time. So now he's actually doing his homework when he gets caught.
And we learned a little bit more about him. He's apparently has a record of some sort.
Yeah, he has a record. I don't know exactly the details of his record, but it's not the first time he's been arrested. And my understanding is that he was quite surprised that he was being held as opposed to just released. And that wasn't something because of us. That was just, apparently New Jersey has a system whereby they rate criminals and they give them a number that determines their risk, et cetera, and whether they get held. And he apparently had a pretty high number.
Wow. Wow. And so now, if you can tell us what's the next step in the process? Are you involved in the next step with him being prosecuted or anything like that?
Look, I'm sure we still have to get the rest of our stuff back.
Yep.
And I'm sure we're going to have to be involved in testifying if there's a trial. I would guess this is the kind of case that's going to plead. I don't know what his defense would be, right? I mean, he's caught with the killer cases hats. Yeah. He's caught with my checks with my name on them. He's caught with a credit card for someone who works here. It's a tough defense. I mean, initially saying he found it in a dumpster, I guess that would be, if he was going to have a defense, his defense would be, I didn't actually do it, I found it. The problem is that we've got the surveillance footage of what sure looks like him, and they recovered the vest that he was wearing in the surveillance footage at the scene. I mean, there's so much evidence. I mean, honestly, there's almost no defense.
Your Honor, this is the first time I should tell you about my twin brother. You haven't heard of him yet. Before I let you go, real quick, how do you think he gained access to the
We don't know.
Yeah.
That's
Dutch checks.
You know, I don't want to speculate. We're still trying to figure out how he gained access, and that is something that we need to figure out to make sure something like this doesn't happen again.
Well, Dan Abrams, great work solving the case.
Not by me. You know, look, give the cops credit. Again, give the Jersey cops credit, give the NYPD credit. They're the ones who cracked this. And Tom, who was tracking his computer.
I know.
They're the ones who deserve the credit. I just put the pieces together.
And there we go. But I'm glad it was a successful resolution.
Right.
The good thing, no one was harmed, no one was hurt during the course of
and
this.
We got our stuff back.
And what content now that we have.
Right.
So that's a win-win.
Yeah.
Dan Abrams, good seeing you.
Good
Thank
to see
so
you.
Much. Appreciate it. Now, thankfully, we had a safe resolution to this. Thankfully, no one was hurt during the course of this. But there has been a phrase that has been circulating around our office and our company since this happened. You know what that is? Do not mess with law and crime. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. Speak to you next time.